How long does it take you to go through your favorite game? Fans of speedruns can reach the final level in the shortest amount of time you could ever imagine. Also, they know how to use unusual tricks and secret features of the game. For example, the average time it takes to complete the legendary Half-Life 2 is between 9 and several tens of hours, but the world speedrun record of this game is only 41 minutes. Cool, isn't it? However, in the history of the gaming industry, there were games that were virtually endless. Almost no one saw their ending. Sometimes games are too long, like Tetris. Sometimes they're too complicated. And there are even those for which the ending was not provided at all. The game created it by itself. Interesting? We have picked 8 legendary games, and we're gonna tell you everything about the final of each one. Probably the most widely known is the browser game from Chrome. That's simply due to the fact that the browser offers to play it while you're experiencing troubles with the internet connection. This game is called Google Dino. In 2018, this game was initialized 270 million times. It seems that problems with the internet are a real disease of mankind, doesn't it? But let's leave that discussion for another time. The game is as simple as possible. A pixeled Tyrannosaurus Rex runs across a field and jumps over obstacles. This must be a hint. If you have no internet, you're back in the prehistoric era. Just admit it, you too played Google Dino at least once. However, no user has ever reached the end of the game. Why? Do you think it's too complicated? Not at all. No matter how good you're doing in this game, it never ends. Your Tyrannosaurus runs into an obstacle and the cycle starts all over again. And again. And again. Edward Jung, a Google Chrome engineer, says it would take 17 million years to get to the point where the game's system code ends. It's difficult to imagine such a period of time, especially in the context of a simple game. But if you actually manage to play it for 17 million years, then the game would simply end with your victory. Not much of a reward, is it? But that's the secret for making Google Dino so long. Due to its simplicity, a cyclic repeating code could be created. But most often, no one sees the end of a game simply because it's too complicated. Such platformers are numerous now, but Super Meat Boy remains the coolest legend of the genre. After all, the craze for hardcore two-dimensional games began with it. The peculiarity of Super Meat Boy is in its crazy concept, as you are offered to play a piece of raw meat. And the gameplay is built on the properties of this material. You need to glide over smooth surfaces, bounce off the obstacles, and move with an understanding of inertia and acceleration of the movement. But the main thing is that each level is just a nightmare for those who like calm games. Just yawn for a second and your Meat Boy becomes minced meat. Literally. If your timing is wrong, you'll lose. Move too fast, and you're returned to the checkpoint again. The game doesn't punish too strictly for a mistake, and you won't have to start the level from the very beginning. Nevertheless, Super Meat Boy requires the player to learn a level thoroughly in order to pass it successfully on the 50th try. In case you never got past all these adversities, we can tell you, in the end, a friend of the main hero sacrifices himself to help save the hero and his girlfriend. They're free now. Finally, our piece of meat has won back his love. But suddenly, some little monster falls on her head. Maybe it's a hint that there's a sequel coming. Anyway, after everything you've been through, such an ending doesn't sound like too much of a reward, does it? In general, the simpler the game seems to be in terms of visual design, the more difficult it can turn out to be to play it. A good example of this is the Darkwing duck from Nintendo. This game is full of unpleasant surprises. For example, a stone may suddenly fall on your head. After all, strong enemies are one thing, but sudden obstacles that appear out of the blue are quite another. When you were a kid, did you like those cartoons about the black cloak of a superhero who looks like Batman but with a duck beak? To play this platformer and not break the gamepad out of frustration, you have to be a real fan. Because although the game only has 7 levels and 7 bosses, it's so difficult and unpredictable it can drive you crazy. Even its ending breaks the usual pattern. The Black Cloak rides his bike on a highway facing the dawn, a romantic moment, and suddenly a stone appears on an empty road unnoticed by our hero. Now, what do you think? Maybe the surprise factor is the very meaning of the game. But sometimes a game has an ending that neither the players and not even the developer is aware of. How is this possible? Well, an example is the legendary Pac-Man. This game from the Japanese developer Namco was released back in 1980 and quickly became very popular. Its rules are simple. There's a labyrinth in which dots are scattered. The player controls something like an emoticon that moves through the maze and eats the dots. At the same time, it must run away from the ghosts. At first, and then for quite some time, the game appears easy. The ghosts remain slow and predictable. But after level 21, the difficulty increases sharply. And not just because the ghosts get faster, they also develop their own behavior patterns. They chase the player using incomprehensible algorithms, and they seem to be driving our Smiley into a trap. This complexity led to the fact that the developers simply never developed an ending. They didn't think that anyone would ever reach a hypothetical denouement, and they were wrong. After all, Pac-Man had a bunch of fans. Some of them roamed this maze for hours, starting the game over and over again, and they found that at level 255, the game starts to glitch. It was not a trick from developers, but a system glitch which the most devoted fans learned about. The first half of level 256, the playing field is filled with weird numbers and ghosts that don't move. But even this part can be passed, and when it's done, the player is returned to the very first level, but the ghosts now move with maximum speed. If you cope with this test, the game just ends, and starts from the beginning again. How do you like such a multi-stage glitch? It'll probably make you want to take a chill pill. But there are also games that seem endless even to the players themselves. Have you ever thought that Tetris might have an ending? After all, as soon as the blocks form a solid horizontal line, it disappears. The player receives points, and this can go on forever. Or not. It turned out that Tetris also has a finale. Even more than that, there are two of them. Imagine how little variable the endings are in a game where you just need to put together blocks of different shapes so that they fill the playing field. No one expected it from Tetris, and so almost no one tried to get to the very end. But we won't keep you guessing. So the first ending is the appearance of many legendary characters of the 8-bit era on the screen. For example, from the Super Mario games. They're dancing and having fun, and in the background a temple is visible, which is a copy of the one located on Red Square in Moscow. Its domes turn into rockets and fly away. In the second ending, the entire temple flies off the screen. The variability's not that great, but it's there. It's already twice now that we've mentioned the legendary plumber Mario, who was supposed to save the princess, so how can we not tell you about the ending of his adventures? Especially since this is one of the most popular arcade games for Nintendo. Well, here we go. The game has 8 levels, where Mario tries to get to the castle where the princess is held captive. The villain is the dragon-like conqueror of the Mushroom Kingdom. He has stolen the princess. The most ironic and annoying thing is, reaching each new castle, Mario hears the same phrase. "Thank you, Mario, but your princess is in another castle." Can you imagine? Every time the same thing. And the complexity of the game increases drastically from one level to another. No wonder many people simply abandoned this game. But at the same time, the developer sold more than 40 million copies, so such sadism paid off pretty well, don't you think? But what does the end of the game look like? It's simple. After the 8th castle, Mario finally frees the princess and saves her, and she thanks him for it. It's just that by this time, almost all players had lost hope for such an ending, so very few had the patience to go so far. After all, upon passing 6 or 7 castles, you also thought that the game was endless, didn't you? But the fact is, if you study the game thoroughly and know exactly what awaits you in the end, it becomes very easy. After all, the world record for its speedrun is less than 5 minutes. However, in order to learn how to dodge all enemies and complete each level without a single mistake, you've really gotta love this game. Another game that was popular in the 90s is Duck Hunt. It was like the Minecraft of its time. The rules went as follows. You had to shoot a duck flying from the bushes using a pistol. This hunting simulator was very popular, 28 million copies sold. This makes this game the second most popular for its platform in history. It's just that almost no one made it to the end. Why is that? Well, because all 99 levels, you need to do the same thing over and over again. The duck flies out, you shoot it. Success? Great, now the dog brings the prey. No luck? Then the dog will laugh at you. 99 times. No progress and no incentive. But if you still manage to reach level 99, it would start raining ducks. Yeah, a real duck rain. And because it's totally unexpected, most people fail to shoot even one, which provokes a real explosion of mocking laughter from the dog. The most hurtful ending, isn't it? But the most mysterious ending was in a game called Battletoads. Get ready for the main entry of the list. It doesn't have any repeating cycles or endless monotonous levels or tricks, so why was this game hardly ever played through? The answer is simple. Apparently, the developers didn't care about the nerves of the players, because this game really is insanely difficult. Everything here is designed so that you'll lose. The levels are radically different from each other, racing episodes are so fast that they provoke epileptic attacks, reaching the boss at the end of a level is several orders more difficult than beating the most important villain, and although 2 players are allowed, in this game you can accidentally attack your mate. Or not so accidentally. Also, the levels are unbalanced in their difficulty. For example, levels 4 and 5 are easier than 3, and level 6 just makes you hysterical. And the surrealistic environment, like fights inside a giant brain between its convolutions, you could well see them in your nightmares. Now get ready. The end of the game goes like this. The hero defeats the Dark Queen, saves the princess, and escapes from the spaceship. Sounds cliche? Perhaps, if you consider that the original ending was cut, but almost no one saw this version either. Nobody has enough nerves for that. And which game do you both love and hate because of its difficulty, or for any other reasons? Please reply in the comments, give us a like, and subscribe to our channel.